There's no easy way out. I just wanna know there's no easy way out. No easy way out. I'm not asking for another chance.
Everybody, welcome back to another episode of the No Easy Way Out podcast. My name is Tony Nash, and we are coming to you, as always, from the Woodworth Building in beautiful downtown Owasso, home to my company, AZ Branding Solutions, where we help grow your brand from A to Z. So today, we have brought back my favorite guest of all time. And I've said this before multiple times on the podcast. Literally my favorite guest. She was on in season 1, I believe, episode 20. Some of you already know who I'm talking about. Some of you are like, who is it? Who is it? The suspense is killing me. But it is the one, the only, Casey Voss. Casey, welcome back to the show.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here. I'm glad you asked me, and it's so fun to be your favorite guest. I appreciate
Yes, I mean, that episode happened. It was just the right time. Like what was talked about was something that I really needed. I've actually gone back and watched sections of it, multiple times. We talked about being present and being in the moment, and it just was something that I need because I am a big visionary and I'm always looking 10 years down the road. And so sometimes I miss what's happening right in front of my face. And so it was helpful for me, and I reference back to it. I still have not perfected it. I still struggle with it so bad. I'm always somewhere else, but I'm trying every day. So thanks for the advice.
Yay.
That's what I love about about doing a podcast is you never know who, when you're talking, you never know who's going to hear it, who is going to need it. And then you're just kind of talking and you find that someone needs it. And probably that day when you were saying this, you had no idea you were speaking so like directly to me, but it was timely and it was great. And I just think you're fun too. So that was, that was always fun. So
Well, that's fun. I love
Yeah.
to be fun. Good. I'm glad to be here. Glad to be fun, and I'm glad that it helped. Helped
Well,
me too to
yeah.
just talk about it.
Good.
Whatever we were going through. So
good. It was something at the time. And that back in those days, we were at the Armory. We didn't have a studio, and we had this like cheap podcast in a box, and we had no ceiling, and we didn't know how to do lights. You can actually see the reflection of the lights in the glass in some of our episodes. The audio wasn't the greatest, and we were just learning. I think, like I said, it was episode 20, so we were learning how to do a podcast, but we're still learning, but we're getting there.
you had to wear the headphones, and that messed with my hair.
Yeah.
So I was grateful
The
today
hair is
to
on
not
point
have
today.
that. Yeah, I'm doing it.
On
Good.
point,
Yeah.
on point. So let's talk a little bit about your business first, and then we'll get into you. But you're the owner of City Suites, right?
Co-owner of
Co-owner
City
of
Suites.
City
Yeah.
Suites. So tell our audience a little bit about what City Suites is.
So co-owner of City Suites. So City Suites is a salon concept. We have 19 mini salons inside of there. My business partner, who's my best friend since 8th grade, we have owned multiple salons together. So I'm co-owner of City Suites Salon and Spas. I also own my own studio inside of there, which is called Bloom, but most people know me as Voss the Curl Boss. And I also own my own brand of curly hair things, and I am
Very professional term.
Yeah,
hair thing.
all the curly hair things, and I am an educator with InnerSense Organic Beauty for curly hair. So I feel like I'm doing so many fun things and all things that I love, and so.
And a mom and a wife and all those
And
things.
a mom and a wife, and yeah.
Keeps you working, right? Keeps you
Yeah.
busy. So
Keeps me balanced.
yeah, that's a
Yeah.
better way to say it.
Yeah.
So now that we know that about you, I know that's just a part of who you are. Why don't you tell our audience about yourself? Like, what do you want the people to know about you?
Oh my goodness, what do I want them to know about me? I think the biggest thing probably, and I just kind of made a video on this yesterday. I was having a hard day yesterday. And Mondays are my office day, and I usually update on my Instagram all the office things I'm doing. And yesterday I didn't do any of those things. And so I think it's really important. I'm excited to be on the podcast, but I think just ordinary people being on podcasts is really cool that are like getting through life, right? So I'm a crier, so I already feel like I want to cry. I don't even know why, but I would
You got
say
tissues
that
off screen if you need it.
I would say what I want you to know about me is that I have spent my lifetime trying to figure out how to find what my purpose is and then living wholeheartedly into that and working my way out of performance-based lifestyle of wanting other people to admire me and really desiring to admire myself. And and want to actually be the kind of person that when I die, my kids are like, oh, my mom was so cool. And not like, yeah, everyone thought my mom was cool, but she was actually a psycho. So I think that's happened in the past.
Well, you know, it's tough with kids because, like, I could do, like, the coolest thing. You know, I'm like, oh, we had this huge success, this win for our business or something in life happened. And you just like, oh, this is so cool. And then you tell your kids and they're just
They
like,
don't
nah.
care.
You know, you hear celebrities talk about that. Like, you know, my dad's Tom Cruise, but they don't care. Tom Cruise,
care.
who's he? He's just my dad, right? So, but someday, like, I know how much I admire my parents now in my 40s and how much I look back on all I know that they, even in their imperfections, what they were trying to do and the sacrifices they made. You as you have your own kids, you just appreciate that so much more, and your kids will too, because you're a great mom, and your kids are gonna look someday, and I guarantee you, in their heart, they already do, and they love you, and they think you're cool, but they can't say that because it's my mom,
I think
right?
they do know. Like I have adult kids now,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I think they do, but it's the power of realizing that that's the most important thing to me, where I used to think if I just did enough cool things, then my kids would think I was cool. But to your point, it really has more to do with how I make my kids feel and not how they perceive me from the outside. Because I think they think that my success is cool, but I think more important than that, the way I make them feel about their success
Yeah.
is more important. And
Absolutely.
sometimes I didn't know that as
Yeah.
a young mom,
Well, I think, you know, my wife and I have talked about this a lot. Like, raising kids is something that nobody is really ever ready for, that nobody really knows how to do. There's no book out there that really tells you how to raise every kid, because every kid is different. And I think, you know, we've really talked about, I think really number one, it's about finding a connection with your kid, not trying to make mini yous, but letting them be unique and their own individual, trying to teach them good principles and good ethics and, you know, good Christian behavior even. And
apologizing when
Yeah.
you teach those
Oh,
things wrongly in the
100
beginning and you come
100%.
back around. Like,
being
I think it's all
transparent.
of it. Yeah.
Being transparent, willing to say
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, absolutely, and just finding a place where you can relate with them. It's amazing to me how many people, friends of mine that I talk to, that they just don't know how to relate with their kids. They don't know how to have a conversation with them. They don't just know how to sit down and reason, level. You know, I'm now like you.
Listen.
I have adult children, which is so different. Like you can't. Even I have two that are living in my house, and even how I approach my rules, my home is different because they're adults, and you don't want to completely turn them away from it. You want to teach them how to be responsible. And, you know, I had a kid recently that was struggling with something, and, you know, we decided to remove that distraction from his life. And, you know, I told my wife, I said, you know, we should do that for a little bit as a punishment, but if you remove the distraction or the temptation or from their life forever, then you never teach them how to really
Be self-governing.
fight it and beat it and talk about why we do these things. And so it's really about, you know, trying to understand them, and it's just an ongoing learning process.
Yeah.
But it's fun. I love it.
It is
I love
fun.
being a dad.
Yeah.
So back to your career for a second. So obviously you're the curl boss. You got
I
that
am the curl
big
boss.
red curly
Yeah.
hair, and you work with a lot of curly haired people.
Mm-hmm.
And when I see you online talking about it, it's clear that you love it.
Mm-hmm.
So what is it that you love so much about working with curly girls and curly boys? Is it mostly girls, or do you?
I do not do the curly boys. I haven't got there.
I have a curly boy.
Yeah, here's the thing. What do I love about it? I think that I love the power of transformation. So for me, I've been in the hair industry since I was 16. I was expelled from high school, and they offered the opportunity to go to beauty school as an alternative to being in high school.
That's nice.
And I had my head shaved at the time and my face all pierced up, and was like, no, I don't want to go to beauty school. And they're like, well, you get out of school at 11. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'll go. And so anyways, I think how God grabbed me and put me into a field that I had I didn't feel beautiful. I hated my hair, literally hated my hair. Everyone made fun of my hair. I hadn't mastered it, right? And then I went into owning a salon. It was really successful, training salon. And the goal was all the stylists had to straighten my hair to get on the floor because we were a training salon. And if you could straighten my hair, you could straighten anybody's hair. And then, so the curly hair thing is newer to me. And when I say new, like maybe 10, 12 years. And what I love about it is that once I totally accepted myself,
Embraced it.
like, okay, who the heck is Casey Voss and what does she look like? And then I was like, oh my God, what if, and I think we said this in your first podcast, so repeat because you can't change the story. What if God put me together this way? What if he made me this way? And what if not only did he make me this way, but how many of the people sitting in my chair are made that same way and need someone to say, hey, you look pretty dope. Yeah. And I was like, oh my God. And so that's what I love. Yeah, I love most curly girls feel broken at some level of misunderstanding of their hair, which is like a misunderstanding of your heart and all the things. So that's what I love about it is you see those before and afters on my Instagram. If you're not following it, you should. But the power of turning someone around and they're like, what the heck? Like it wasn't a major weight loss. Nothing happened in the last 20 minutes you had to work for it. Like it's just there. It's there. It's in you already. Yeah. I just brought it out. So
I love that. Yeah. That epiphany of this is who I am and I'm going to embrace it and turn it into something that's going to help other people. Yeah. I think it's awesome. It's inspiring. And you are inspiring people all the time. And I know a lot of people have even shared with me that was not just my favorite episode, but a lot of other people's as well. And so keep doing what you're doing. Obviously, you know that you're going to. And you're starting your own podcast, which we're going to talk about in just a little bit. And people are going to be super excited to see that drop here very soon. Well, my next question was going to be, why did you start your own business? But you kind of just answered that for us. So I want to talk a little bit about your journey. And I know we discussed this again in the last podcast. Like you said, can't change the story. But your journey has been a very unique one and very interesting and something that I think will help a lot of other business owners who may be in that mode or, headed towards maybe a fork in the road where they got to make a decision and one could be really bad and one could be really good. And so you obviously, I believe the first business that you started was at Woodard Station.
No.
Okay, let's go back. Let's rewind. So that was after that. So let's talk about your journey.
Third salon. So my best friend and I, Jamie, we worked at Elliott's together downtown when we were very young, and our boss did not want us to work together because we were rowdy. And it was a small space, and we'd come in and everyone else there was older, and we would talk about what we did on Saturday night, and our boss was like, you cannot work together. It's annoying. And so Jamie was like, I'm going to open my own shop. You should come. Well, I got pregnant. And so I wasn't going to be rowdy anymore, and I needed security, right? So I was like, you go be wild and free. I'm about to be a mom. And so I stayed a little bit at Elliott's. Jamie went and opened a salon on Ball Street, and she kept saying, you should come. And I'm like, I don't know what about you makes me think this is responsible, but I cannot be leaving all behind my $100 a week paycheck and just come there acting a fool.
I'm making bank.
Yeah, like $100 was just covering my daycare. My husband was detailing cars at Selleck's. Anyways, I finally decided I couldn't miss her anymore, and it couldn't be any harder. So we had a shop. She had started it with just one other guy. When I came in with her, he left, and she and I remodeled that space, and it had like a space heater on the wall. It didn't even have real heat. It was just like a space heater on the wall, and we had 2 used nail tables, and I had a cash box, which I thought was so cool, and like a little lock on it, and I bought one of those big calculators with the big numbers on it.
It's funny when you're starting a business, like the little things that happen that legitimize it in your mind. Yeah. Like I remember the first day I actually gave somebody like a real payroll check, not just like a handwritten, but like it was typed out. Like I sent a picture to a friend. I'm like, this is so cool. And they're like, what? I'm like, this is a real payroll check. And they're like, okay. Like, never mind. You're not going to get it. Yeah. But it's cool along that process to enjoy those little wins.
Yeah. It was 2002. Boy, that was before anything. So I think, we just had the little calculator. It was awesome. So that was our first shop. And then we opened another shop on Washington Street where the Wesner building is now.
Yeah.
And we expanded there. She pulled me because I was like, I don't think we should grow because I'm safety Casey. So I was like, I was good with being safe. Like I'm making, double the 100 I was making at the other. I got 2 hundo, I don't need to be greedy. And she's like, I think we could do more. We had 2 nail girls. I'm like, why do you always want more? You're always pushing me. And so we grew there, and I couldn't believe the amount of people that came to work for us. And we expanded there twice. So we started 4 of us, and I think left there at 14. And the reason we left there is because someone actually lit the stairwell on fire. They were in a fight with their significant other upstairs. That's a sad story, but
is that when that building burned down? Mm-hmm. My sister lived there. She was in one of the apartments upstairs. She almost didn't get out. I didn't know that was. So what was your business at that time?
Hairpiece.
Oh yeah, I did know
We
that.
were
Wow.
downstairs as hairpiece, and so that salon caught on fire, and so we were forced out. And the story of that, we ended up going to the Brookridge building. Our insurance agent said he'd never seen it in 3 days. We reopened. We rented like 9 office spaces. We had nail girls on the floor. We were sitting on towel racks. Every salon, probably from here to Corona, donated a chair, and we were up and running. And we were there for 7 months. So you walked in, and then it was crazy. And that space taught me, because I had a big ego. I was young. I thought that, I was awesome. I was nailing it. Everybody wanted to work for me. I had some sort
The
of
theme
that.
song of money.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I didn't even have money, but I had
that was the song that was playing in your head.
And I thought it was all because our space was cool. And anyways, we lost everything and everyone stayed. And I think that was when I really realized, like, it didn't matter how fancy my space was. Like, it was about the people. Like, we were busy because of the people who worked for me, not because I was so cool. And then we opened at Woodard Station. And so that had kind of been in the works before the fire. And there we had 15 stations, 7 nail stations, a massage room, pedicures. We had everything there. And we grew there exponentially. We won third runner-up for salon design in the nation from Salon Today magazine. Like, it seemed like we were doing so many cool things, and then everyone quit. And so lost everything. So I've had these waves of
Peaks and valleys.
Yeah, looks like everything's going well. Like, we literally won that award I think the week after everybody quit, and I thought that I was going to lose my house and my family, and was in the darkest spot I've ever been in. And I was so embarrassed that we won that award, because I was like, really? So we have all this cool salon design and no one wants to work for us. And
Yeah.
And then we closed that because of situations and circumstances and whatever. Rebranded Smith and Voss.
Right next door.
Downtown.
Yeah, right next door to where we're at right now.
Yes. Yep. Next door, downtown. Reopened under a different identity, I think, for Jamie and I. So Smith and Voss, when there was a crown on the top. And for us, that was like, God is in control. We had surrendered under his authority, and it was kind of, I never wanted to have a salon that was our name, because I thought it was crazy. But what I realized through all the losses we had is that we were the 2 who remained, because we were.
It's a cool name too, Smith and Voss. It sounds like
a cigar shop.
Yeah, no, it just sounds like Detective Cagney and Lacey, like Smith and Voss. It just sounds cool.
Voss, so. Yeah, and I forgot to mention, in the middle of that, my husband lost his job, all these crazy things. We ended up opening a barbershop inside of our salon. He became a barber. When we went downtown, we had a barbershop inside of our salon. And so did that. And actually at the peak of that, it was going really well, probably successful. We opened City Suites, which was why we had the walkout before. And if you need more fill-in, you can let me know. But we had decided that we thought Salon Suites was a good idea, presented it at a staff meeting, and everyone kind of flipped out. And so I thought God had betrayed me. Like, what the heck? Like, I thought this was what we were supposed to do, and then it didn't work out. So 10 years later, we ended up opening City Suites. And I never thought I would work there. It was just part of the vision of people will work and train their way up with us, open their own shop. And
kind of like an incubator for hairstylists,
Growth.
nail technicians, massage therapists, all of it. It's like people go there and kind of get their start, right?
Yeah, so they could work for us, and they moved up levels. We had 4 tiers at Smith & Voss. So you started as an apprentice, and you worked your way up. And what we discovered is that by the time people were at level 3 or 4, they were ready to do their own thing. And so we thought, how cool is this? Let's give them a path from infancy to adulthood. And if I'm totally vulnerable, I also hate when people break up with me. Probably more than anything, which is why I still have the same best friend, the same church, the same husband. I ain't going anywhere, And so for me, I was like, if I can make a plan that people never want to break up with me, they'll stay forever. And then, so then decided somewhere along that way, Voss the Curl Boss started emerging from my heart, and it brought down my defenses of, do I want to continue to pour more into this business than what I'm capable of, and closed Smith & Voss.
Yeah. And now you're out at City Suites permanently. You have your own studio out there, like you mentioned. You have 19 spaces.
Yep.
And are they all full?
Yep.
That's amazing.
Super cool.
It's incredible. And I love that story because, owning a business, we were just talking about this morning. Of course, you and I had a whole podcast before the podcast about something entirely different. But I was talking to my team, a couple of people from my team this morning, like, you never realize how hard it really is to make profit in a business that you own. You just think, oh, if I do this thing that I'm really good at and people pay me and I charge this much and my costs are this, but then everything else that goes with it. And especially if you're a big vision person where you always want the next thing and the next thing, like here, I always want the next piece of equipment, the next this, the bigger space, the next thing. I always have this big idea of where we go. And realizing that when you add all these things, that adds more cost and more challenges and more, they say more money, more problems. There's all these different things. And so there are struggles. And then like for us, like we had 2020, we exploded with growth, 42% growth in 2020, because we happened to offer a service that a lot of businesses needed in order to survive in a pandemic. And then 2021, 38% growth. It's just insane. We started 2020 with 3 employees. By the end of 2021, we had 18 employees.
Awesome.
And I'm thinking it's always going to be this way. We're going to always be growing. We'll never not grow again. So then I start making all these big decisions of, like, you're sitting in new space here. We buy a print shop. I gave that 5 minutes of thought when John Hankard called and said, hey, I'd like to sell you my print shop. Didn't even think about it. Didn't talk to my wife. Yes, we need a print shop. Buy the print shop. Then not just having that print shop, was good. The space below us became available. That'd be great to have all my people under one roof. And so a lot of people from the outside look and like, oh, you guys are killing it. It's funny. I see people like, oh man, you guys are killing it, AZ. And I'm like, yeah, do you know, like, a month ago we had a hard week, almost didn't make payroll. Like, that's real. That happens. And you have ups and downs, right? And so then you hit 2022, 3.
You're lucky if it was only a week.
Yeah.
I had lots of times where I
it's
was
definitely
not
been
sure
more
if
than a
I
week.
was going to pay myself or.
Yeah, it's definitely been more than a week, but people don't see that, especially when, like, I'm just very much an optimist. I'm always going to be positive. I'm always going to move forward. But then you hit 2023 with that assumption we're going to grow, and then, the economy starts to get tough. People start to make cutbacks, which our clients do the same thing. And so then for the first time in 3 years, you start to have downward trending sales. Well, what you don't think about when you're like me is we take all of this new monthly expense. What happens if sales start to go down again? Because I didn't even consider that was a possibility, right? I'm the optimist. It's always going to go up. God's blessing us. He's doing all these great things. And so it's taught me a lesson in, number one, thinking more than,
2 minutes out.
2 minutes ahead. Yeah. Well, it's like I'm either 2 minutes out or 20 years ahead. I'm never like, what's going to happen in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. So it's been good in a sense. Hindsight is 2020. We look back at it and say, oh man, that needed to happen so that we could reevaluate some things. But that's the part of entrepreneurship that people from the outside see all the cool things and see the awards and see the cool space and but what is it about? What is it? And I want to kind of get into what is it do you think are the qualities in a person, an entrepreneur, that when they're faced with that difficult time, like you guys had and like we've had, where you say, either I'm going to turn this into a success, I'm going to pivot and change it a little bit, or I'm going to quit, I'm going to fail. And like 75-80% of businesses fail. And so what do you think is that pivotal difference where, people do these things, they expand, they grow or whatever, maybe they grow too fast. I remember hearing on Shark Tank, they'll say like that phrase, like, don't grow too fast. And I was used to be like, what does that even mean? Like, how could you grow too fast? And I feel like now, 8 years in, I understand what that means. It's about pacing yourself and doing things prudently and surrounding yourself with people smarter than you that can help you through those things. But what do you think is the qualities or the characteristics that you think help someone in that moment? Maybe someone's listening right now and they're in that. They're like, they're feeling it. Like, I'm at a pivotal point where I either need to close up shop or maybe pivot, adjust, downsize. Sometimes people won't downsize because of their ego.
Yeah, that was the big one I was going to say. So 20 years in my entrepreneurship journey, I think about the different people I've been in that process, you know? So like you said, as things get bigger and fancier, like my business partner used to always pull the P&L on me, which I didn't even know what it meant because that was her. I'm like, okay, she's going to get out the P&L. I don't. So if you're an entrepreneur without a business background, you don't know what any of that stuff is. You're just like, whatever.
I was that guy.
You're like a P and what? And she's like, the reason we're not making profit is because every time we have it, you do a remodel or think we need to expand.
Right.
I was like, why are you showing that to me? Like, I don't care about that. Like, I'm like, do the clients like the remodel? They did, you know, like, and she's
Right.
like, do you like not getting a paycheck? I'm like, shh, Jamie, people see
It will
us
come.
as
If you build it, they will come.
Yeah, I'm like, look at what people are seeing. So again, in just all transparency, I didn't even realize that was my ego. I didn't
100%.
realize that was my ego. And I was willing to put my finances at risk in order to continue to look successful. Somewhere inside, where'd that come from? I can give you the whole story. Tune into my podcast. You'll know why.
Yes.
But there is a reason behind what drives that. So I would say for me, I think the characteristic is the same as what I just talked about. You can't break up with me.
Yeah.
I can't break up with me.
Right.
I understand that I'm going every place I go, and I believe the pivoting has been really hard. I'm also thankful for a 20-year best friend. I'm thankful for a 20-year husband. I'm thankful for a 20-year church. Because without and a 15-year therapist. So when I look at the realm of what were the things influencing me, it was not me on an island by myself. Because me on an island by myself, I would have quit a million times because I don't like when people leave, and I had everybody leave. I don't like when things don't look successful, and I had every literal thing not look successful. Like I didn't know how I was going to pay my mortgage, let alone have to close a salon. Like I think for me, again, what it's taken now, the who I am today is so interesting to who I was back then. So on my own, since I closed the salon, I've started like 3 or 4 different businesses. I applied for a job. I've never applied for a job. I've been my own boss since I was 20. I applied for a job, had an interview in Dallas before I told my husband I even applied for it because there was this huge part of me that was like, I don't even know how to make a resume. I didn't tell anybody. I sent it in kind of half done because I was embarrassed. But I am so much more willing to take the risk now than even it looked like in my past life because I know that I want to grow and be surrounded by people who are accelerating my ideas and my thought processes. And I want to be in rooms with people that are doing cool things. And the only way I do that is if I risk and I do it.
Yep.
And I think because I've lost so much in business, I'm less afraid. Like I got so much, and I believe in the power now.
It doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger.
Yeah, and I believe that. So like the only way at this stage in the game, and probably I've added a couple of buffer zones. So I have one income from City Suites that gives me a buffer. People pay rent. I'd have to lose everybody to not for that to fail.
Yeah.
So I have a buffer. And then as far as City Suites go, or Bloom, unless I lose a hand,
Right.
I can go to work.
Right.
You know, like no one's preventing me. Where when I owned the big salon, I was subject to everyone that worked for me, which isn't wrong or right. I may go back to it someday.
What's
you
right
never
for
know.
you, though?
But it's right for me now.
Yeah.
Is that like Casey Voss, the Crow Boss, is she and Jesus are in the driver's seat of what happens now, and I trust me.
Right. Well, exactly. And then, it comes down to, in those situations, it's, are you willing to learn, or are you going to hold on so tight to this idea?
Correct.
This ideal, really, that this is what it has to be, this is what it needs to be. And sometimes God's just saying, hey, I have big things for you, but just I need you to adjust. And are you willing to not make it about you? And or to even, like, what was tough for me is, like, I liked hearing people say, man, you guys are killing it. It's a nice thing to hear, right? Because we're a branding agency. And so if people think our brand is good, that's good for business, right? And all on the outside, I'm like, yeah, things are really great. Like, we have this cool thing. But there were some adjustments that needed to be made. And I went through this phase, I don't know if you went through this, where when I decided, swallow your pride, swallow your ego, let's take a step back. Let's look at this. Okay, do we need to get smaller space? Do we need to, downsize? Do we need to let go of some people? Do we need to, and just fully open up? Okay, I'm going to listen to people, and I surround myself with people who can help me through this. We hired a consultant to help us with some things. And this guy was like a by the book kind of guy, and kind of helped me thinking a little bit more business acumen, not just not just vision, but let's think business, right? Because there's a big difference. But then I found I went through this like 2-3 month period where I just started second guessing everything. And I was not taking any risk at all. And I was trying to just play it safe in every area. And I was unhappy. And I'm like, I was committed and surrendered to doing it the right way. But like it was sucking all the fun out of it. It was like making me like think you did it your way, and look how difficult you made things, And all of a sudden, it dawned on me, and it just through prayer and understanding who I am and the gifts that God has given me. And, I'm always talking about self-awareness. Like, don't let anybody know something about you that you don't know about yourself. It's okay to have weaknesses as long as you know they're there, and you can surround yourself with people to help you. And I realized like the magic behind this thing has to still be my vision and my willingness to try new things and take risks. And so I have to listen to good counsel, but also have discernment to say, no, we're going to do this because it's the right thing to do. And so it's all part of the growth process, right? And, I always tell people, tell our businesses, think about that thing that made you unique, made you special, and double down on that. Like, don't lose the magic just because you're trying to be a by-the-book business person. But don't be all about the magic and not about being a good business person as well, because you have to have both things. And I remember Randy Woodworth said to me one time, he goes, I'll never fail because I won't quit. And I think really for me, like the idea is no matter what, if you believe you're doing the right thing, just don't quit. You're going to hit bumps in the road. It doesn't matter if you have 5-10 years of success. There's going to be a time coming where you're going to face a challenging time. You're going to lose a really big client. You're going to have a fire. Somebody's going to quit and leave you that was like really key to your operation. Things are going to happen, right? You're going to have a bad economy, and people are going to start cutting their budgets back. And so you have to know, like, all right, I'm committed to this thing. I know I'm doing the right thing, so I'm not going to quit. But you still have to be willing to take a step back and
you
pivot.
have to know what quitting looks like for you.
Right.
I think that's the big one. Like for me, when God, circumstances, whatever you want to say, when we had to walk away from the third runner-up salon, I kept saying that. Like, why would we have to, I kept saying the award to myself. Like, why do we have to walk away from we have the coolest salon, third in the nation, because I was tied to that and not to the vision of what I started all of this for. And so when we had to close that and go to a smaller spot, I was embarrassed, even though the spot was beautiful and amazing and all of that. And when I gave that up to go to a suite, I was like, what are my clients going to think? Like, it's going to be so. And what I have realized is back to that, what do I think?
Right.
Who am I in this story? Because what is going on? And am I willing to continue to go with what I am supposed to do? So at this current state in my life, like I've had so many people reach out to me on social media, especially, and say, how do you do all of the things that you're doing? Because on the outside, it does look like I do a lot of stuff. I'm busy, but I work 3 days a week in my salon, 3 days.
Right.
I don't know very many people. And guess what? I work 7 a.m. to usually 3. And I have that hard line because that's where I'm able to give, which I used to work 12 hours a day, 5 or 6 days a week, and then not have anything left and be burnt out. So I've found this rhythm or sweet spot in my life where I'm willing to say, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm not full right now. Actually, I'm lacking and deficient. And the only way I'm going to be able to make this up is if I add something to my life that brings up that joy level, or if I take something away that's on the pressure valve. And it's been so crazy to me the last year and a half of my life, as I have said, okay, God, you got the wheel on this one for real. Like, how many more things have been added to my plate, but they do not feel hard. I think I said that to you when you came to film the podcast, like, how many episodes are you going to do? And I said, well, I'm committed, I think, to 6 or 12. I said, But when it's hard, not that I'm not willing to push past hard,
Yeah.
but if it's like making everything feel messy,
Yep.
I
enjoyable
cannot do
anymore.
that for
Yeah.
myself or for my family. And I've realized that it is okay if it's not hard, which I think that there's such a hustle culture in the business world. All the books I've read, all the things I've seen, that you got to hustle, you got to grind, you got to do this. And although there is an importance to the hustle and the grind, I also think that it's really okay to say that I hustle, but I also, I live in a lot of rest.
I'm happy.
I take a lot of breaks.
Yeah.
I'm okay with saying I have a wait list of 100 and some people, and I know they're irritated about it. If you're waiting, I apologize. But you'll get the best of me when you get me,
Yeah.
because that's what I can give, where before I used to overgive what I didn't have, if that makes sense. So I think it is, I don't give up, but I'm also finally at a point in my life at 43 years old where I can say, I cannot do that.
Yeah.
I cannot do that.
Well, I think balancing hustle with happiness.
Yeah.
I've said on this podcast a lot, happiness is underrated. I think it's amazing to me how many people I've had a conversation with and asked them what makes you happy, and people have never just really stopped and thought about that.
I don't know.
Especially I think you and I are a little bit like we're people pleasers. I like to make the people around me happy. I enjoy that. I like, and I think that's what I love about our business. I love helping a business grow. I get great satisfaction from that. And that's why it's easy to say, I don't care if we're making money. I'm helping these people. That's more fun. But then that
I'd like to say that's a lie from the pit of hell.
Yeah.
Not about you,
No.
but just the idea that we can make money and make people happy.
Exactly.
I didn't know that was a possibility.
Exactly.
And it is okay.
But it's when you know truly, you've defined what makes you happy.
Yes.
And that's where people are like, oh, I'm happy when I'm doing this. But if you really sit down and do an inventory of your life, I'm most happy when I'm doing what? Okay, maybe that's being with my family. Maybe that's downtime. Maybe that's going on trips. Whatever that is, then it's about how do I arrange my life where I can spend the most amount of time doing that, right? And it's not. And I realize maybe my happiness is when I get to go on a trip or a hike, and that might only happen 4 or 5 times a year. But that gives the rest of the stuff I'm doing purpose to give me time to do these things that make me happy. And so for me, in this season of my life right now, having time to be with my kids while they're playing sports and go to their games and have family time. We bought this huge dining room table where we have the whole family sit around and eat dinner, which only happens once or twice a month, but I really love those moments. Knowing that these things are really what I want, it drives my decision-making process.
Yeah.
I could take on this really big client and it would make a lot of money, but also it's going to take me away from this. And so what's more important to me? And so it's okay for me now to have less employees. We have 12 employees now. It's okay to have small. We have parts of this building that we haven't even built out yet because we don't need the space right now. It's okay to have smaller and less if I know that I'm getting out of this what makes me happy. All those things are cool and they're great, and they may happen down the road. They may not. But my happiness isn't attached to those things.
Right.
It's what this thing can do for for me and my staff that is what really, where that happiness comes from. So I would encourage anyone listening, do an inventory and really sit down and think, what makes me happy? And it's not about serving yourself, but it's about understanding, and maybe for you, happiness is volunteering or being involved in your church or going on a mission trip, okay? And find ways to make that more.
And don't think about what other people think it should be. And for me,
that.
I always say this, I have ADD, for me, it really is all of the things. So I'm not happy in one sphere.
Right.
And when I tried to just be the super mom sphere, not my jam.
Yeah.
Actually not super good at it. I need some other people tag teaming in on that.
Yeah.
But I'm super happy when I have 3 days here, 1 day to do this, 1 day to do that, a day here, and once a month I can add this in. For me, it's the flavor of all of the things that gets me excited. And so I thought it was money. So I used to let that drive, because if you have money, then you have all the things.
Right.
But it has nothing to do with money for me. Although money's important, you have to have your needs met.
Sure.
Once I'm able to identify what that is, then I can pop in these other things and not play in whack-a-mole with my feelings.
And you can
all
even
the time.
push through those difficult things knowing you're working towards this thing that's ultimately going to make you happy. And this is why it's crazy, if you're listening, why it's crazy for you to try to be the next Casey Voss, or I'm going to try to be the next Gary Vee, or I'm going to try to be the next Randy Woodworth, or whatever. It's okay to be inspired by people.
Correct.
But what makes Casey happy and what her goal for her life and her purpose in life and calling is probably completely different than yours. So you can take inspiration from that. Take inspiration from something you heard, but you got to chart your own path. And that's why you really need to sit down and just give it some serious thought. I encouraged Casey Lambert, who's on our team, in his first evaluation with us as a team member. I really take the evaluation time to try to help find areas where I can help improve them, not just professionally, but even in their personal life. And I said, Casey loves our core values of our company. He loves it. It was one of the main reasons he wanted to work here. And I think he personifies our core values. And I said, have you ever sat down and really thought about what are your core values? What is your mission statement? He's like, I really haven't. So he came to me today, and he's given a talk over at New Lothrop High School to a bunch of kids. And he said, boss, you'll be proud of me. I wrote out, I really gave some thought to what are my core values? What are the things I place a high value on in my life? And to think someone like him, who's Mr. Personality, done all these really cool things, opened for these big acts, DJ'd all over the state, done all these cool things. He never really sat down and thought about what are the things that I value for my life? What are the things I place a high value on? And I think that's really going to help him. And I think a lot of times we just don't sit down and really look at who are we? Who am I? Like you said, the moment you realize, like, I know who I am, and I'm going to embrace it, and I'm even going to monetize it. I'm going to make it cool. And it's really helped you on your journey. I think that's awesome. I think more people really should stop and think, what am I trying to get out of this life? What is my purpose here? And
Well, in one practice, I was going to say that I've done personally, and I started doing it with my kids, and I had them invite their friends this year, and we did it, is if you don't know how to discover what you love or don't love, because I think a lot of people don't. We used to do this in staff meetings as well, is you get out your phone and you break it down into months, and you go through the last 12 months. And based on pictures, you photograph what things that you enjoyed or didn't enjoy, and also your calendar. So I do both. I take 3 to 4 hours and I go through an inventory of the last year, and I break it down by month. What are some things that I did that I loved, and what were some things that I didn't love each month? And I had my kids do it too, and their friends came over, and their friends all loved it. It was super fun, and I have different ages of kids, so they all did it. And even my oldest came and brought her friends. And then from that, we made a vision board on where we wanted to end up. And then I offered it to the staff at City Suites too. But because I think we live so much of our life, like you said, looking at other people and thinking, well, I'm going to be happy when I'm doing things like so-and-so. But and maybe we don't take enough time to ponder what it would look like if we wondered what we actually like to do. And then we quit looking at everybody else, because I tell my kids, when you start feeling dissatisfied, pull out your vision board. What are the 3 steps that are going to touch you back into you, because you were born already wired with what your plans are and the purposes for your life. And it's only the dissatisfaction. So my word is always satisfied. I want to be satisfied. Yep. And so when I'm satisfied, I can tell that I'm tapped into who I was meant to be, and I can see it in my kids. All that meandering that they're doing, they're walking away. And so go back to your core, what's lighting you up, and I think that's a simple practice. So reach out to me if you want to know more about how to do that, because it's so easy and fun.
Well, and I think you and I could talk about this for hours.
I think
and
we're
hours
probably
and hours.
already over time on your podcast.
Probably close to it. But that's what we're going to get through this, because we have a lot of good stuff to offer.
I'm here for it.
And but I think really it comes down to if you start to believe the hype about yourself, not based on what you know about yourself, but what everybody's told you about yourself.
Right.
You start to believe the hype. That's when it becomes difficult then to really step back and do the downsize or do the lesser version, which whose idea is it's a lesser version. But when you get to the point where you've believed the hype and now you're trying to maintain this image that other people have created of you that you didn't even necessarily create for yourself, then you find yourself in a very difficult situation. So I would say, if you find yourself in a situation today where you're maybe facing this idea of, I might close my business, I might lose this, then take a step back. I have a big sign right when you walk in that says, remember why you started. It's the first thing I ever designed when I was building out my first office space. I always make sure it's right where I can see it when I walk in, because I know why I started this business. And it had nothing to do at the time with being famous, successful, rich. It had everything to do with being able to chart out more time to be involved in my church and with my family, because the career I had before this took all that away from me. So I want to remember that, because when this thing starts to be the very same thing that's taking away from all those things that I started, I got to step back. But when you believe the hype that everyone has said about you, and you start to feel good about yourself, oh yeah, I'm feeling myself. You're like, I'm too legit to quit, right? Then it's hard for you to check the ego and take that step back. So I would promise you this: nobody is going to judge your move to adjust your business, whether it be down or up, the way you are. So
well, I'll challenge that thinking.
You think so?
Oh, for sure. But here's the
people
thing.
judged it harsher than you judged it?
Well, it went on the front page. It seems like I told you this before. Like when everybody left my salon, they put it on the front page of the Argus Press. Nearly
nobody
25
reads.
women leave. Well, back then they did.
Yeah,
but
back
the
then
whole
they did.
point of it
That's
was
true.
like, it was catty and awful.
Yeah.
And my personal life exposed. And I did get some really nasty, nasty letters from people.
Yeah.
Like, it was so weird. So people will, but Brene Brown, one of my very favorite people to read, she always says that there are less people in the arena. We talked about this at on our last podcast. There are less people in the arena and more people in the seats that boo or cheer, because not very many people will fight. And so you and I, or people that are choosing to change history, or change their family, or move their community, or do something profound, whether it's just stepping out of generational bondage. That stuff is hard. And there will be people who will boo or people that will cheer. Sure. And if your identity is tied to, as mine has been in the past, the stars and acclamates of others, then that will be harder to handle. And that's why I went through the darkest time in my life, where my family was afraid for me, because there are people that are mean.
Yeah, that's
there
true.
are people that will say things. There are people that are watching, because people want. So here's the thing, though, that I'll say about that, and look at me when I say it, is that when I lost my business, I had so many people that were quick to say, I knew it, I knew you couldn't do it, da-da-da. And when I became successful again, those same people were like, oh, I knew you were going to do it. I was cheering for you. No, they weren't. But here's what I believe. I think they were. But everybody's so afraid in the world we live in of success or failure. They're so afraid of what everyone's looking at. And that they want to be so hard because they're afraid to fail. But what I have realized is that if we fail in front of people and we get back up, we give people power to do the same.
Yeah.
And so I agree with Tony that you will judge yourself harder, but people will be louder.
Sure.
And more vocal. And the bigger your business is, the more vocal they'll be, because there'll be more people talking. Yeah. And it's okay.
Yeah,
it's still okay to walk away.
I like the quote that says, "Your opinion of me is none of my business." Like,
yeah, what you think about me, I got too many things I'm thinking about me.
Yeah, and so like if you're going through that and you feel like the opinions of everyone around you is going to really affect you, then I would say maybe stay off social media. If it ends up on the front page of the paper, that's really hard to avoid. And I guess I hadn't thought of it that way, but that is 100% true. But again, I like what you said, you know, in terms of it's going to be loud, it's going to be haters, but
and there'll be cheers, but we tend to hear the boos.
We tend to hear the boos.
Look for the cheers.
But it's probably we tend to hear the boos because, again, like we started to believe the hype.
Correct.
All the good things.
Exactly.
You know, Gary Vee, who is someone I like, he will talk constantly about that he doesn't need accolades at all from anybody, which is why the haters don't bother him, because I don't need the opinions. And I think, you know, practically speaking, you know, my love language is words of affirmation. It's one of my love languages. So, you know, I like to hear the accolades. So if you're a person that likes to hear the accolades, then probably the what's the opposite of an accolade? The criticisms, the critiques do bother you so much.
Right.
But I still think, like, you know, I think there's truth that, like, you're holding back because you feel like how you're going to perceive yourself is differently than the way other people are going to. And I guess, you know, the way you put it is absolutely right. There are going to be haters that are going to be out there and make you feel a certain way. But I think you still got to, you know who you are, know what you're trying to do, and push through it.
Be okay with you.
Yeah.
Be okay. Put you in front of what other people think, and you will rise to the level you believe you can.
And that's about, moving with vision and understanding where you're going. So, well, okay, so let's, I mean, that was incredible. And I really, if you want to stop there, you gained some really good things from this. But you're starting your own podcast coming up here soon. We talked about that at the beginning.
Yeah.
And I think this is proof that you really should. I think you have such an incredible perspective, and you have a great way of articulating it, as good as anyone I've been around. And that's why sometimes I get caught up in what you're saying and I lose my own train of thought. And so I'm really, really looking forward to your podcast. So tell the audience what it's going to be about, when they're going to be able to see it, and when are we dropping this thing? I know we're kind of helping with the post-production of it, but when's it going to drop? Do we want to announce it right here?
So what is it about? So it's called It's Not About Your Hair, where we talk all things hair, heart, and happiness. Should I look here or look at you? What should I do in
Tell
this
the
moment?
people.
I'm
Yeah,
going to tell you.
I already know, so tell the people, yes.
So I don't know. You guys listen. So when I have always thought about doing this because I like to talk. I would not have done it had Tony not said I was his favorite guest, and then encouraged me to do it. And so I always say, I don't know if it's because Tony's getting paid from me or if he actually believes that. It could be both, and I don't care. I'm not his biggest client, that's for sure. But what I think is that when someone says something to you, and I'm going to say this is without ego. I used to run from the call of having something to say in my life because of not believing it myself, right? So going back to that, I can remember from a young age having people tell me that I had something to say. And I remember the first time I was asked to share my testimony. My Uncle Rick invited me to youth group in Ovid-Elsie. And I was like, I don't want to do it. Like, I don't have anything. And so after enough times of hearing, maybe you got something, and then Tony said, and I'm like, I'm not going to do it because I don't know how to edit. So if you follow me on social, I don't know how to do anything. If I can film it right, then I'll do it, but I don't know how to do any of that. And you said, don't worry, I can do that part.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, you probably won't have to edit it because I just say what I say and then it's done. But if you can make the intro video and all that fun stuff. So what is it about? I don't really know. I think it's going to be about life transformation, opportunities. I'm going to share a ton of my own personal stories of how I once was and how I saw things, kind of exactly what we're talking about. Like before I saw things through the eyes of my ego, and now hopefully I see things through the eyes of the reality of which I'm living in through the gospel. So it's not a Christian podcast, but I am a Christian. It will be about life, and hopefully we'll find a lot of things to laugh about and joy.
Well, you wrote a book. So that's going to be a big part of the
Thanks
premise.
for the steer back.
Just reminding
I did write a book.
Just reminding you about the book.
A few years ago, I wrote a book and didn't finish it. But this is how cool God is. So I wrote the book, I finished the book, and then I started working with an editor because I'd never done anything like that. And the editor encouraged me to start writing for this 365 Christian Men. Anyways, I did that. It was super cool. So all this thing from this girl, that my narrative, and you'll see that in the book, was from a very young age, I was told I wasn't smart. And in the series of choices I made, so the books start off with these timeline stories in my life that created this narrative of why I became the Casey I was, and then how through the redemption eyes of the story, I became someone different. And so I believe that for everybody.
Yeah.
Transformation happens inside, outside, outside, inside, and I get to do both at my shop and now hopefully through this opportunity. So I hope you listen.
Well, we're excited about it. We're excited to be a part. I think there's going to come a point where you're going to probably do a lot of this on your own. I don't trust me. I don't tell every person they need a podcast.
Okay, good. I wouldn't know if he's just tooting me.
I wouldn't tell you if I didn't believe it. We don't just push product here. My staff sometimes wishes I would push, but I really don't try to offer things to people that I don't think are good or they're going to help them.
On that.
Yeah, but I really think, Casey, that you have not just a great perspective, you have a unique voice, both the way you articulate things and even the sound of your voice is unique and it's different. And you have a unique look, right? And so I think people are going to tune in because you're interesting to listen to and you're just real and you're raw and you share your experiences. So I'm excited about it. We're looking at November 7th.
Yeah,
right?
Tuesdays at 2.
Tuesdays at 2. Easy
Tuesdays
to remember.
at 2.
So every Tuesday at 2, we're excited to do that, and we're putting up the finishing touches on episode 1. You actually filmed, 5 episodes in your first run. So
Yeah, so this is so fun. So I just have to say it real fast, but I told Tony and Dan when they showed up, like, I don't have anything planned. I kept trying to write stuff down, and I had, you know what you know. And so that was the whole point, is I had the book. I know what I'm talking about, but I kept trying to postpone it because I have a lot going on in my life. And I was like, I just don't have time for this. I don't know what I'm going to say. I don't want to look stupid. Back to that. I don't want anyone to break up with me or say mean things to me or about me and Tony's like, well, that's fine. Whatever you want to do, but people like you don't get less busy. So I suggest you set a date. And I was like, okay, fine, let's do that. So I set a date, and when they showed
Radical
up,
Candor. I just read the book. It's a good book.
I love that book.
A good book.
That's
yes.
a great book, but it's true.
Yeah.
And that's why also, you guys, here's something I didn't know as a young entrepreneur back in the day. I don't have to know how to do everything.
Right.
And so a lot of times I've let the fear of money or fear of looking stupid or fear of something else hold me back. I don't know how to do any of that. And Tony was like, I'll help. I'll do it. This is how much it costs. And I was like, you know what? I'm worth it.
Yeah.
I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's going to be so fun. And it also holds me accountable because I got the ADD. So I'm all over the place and I don't follow through because I get in my head. And so this forces me to follow through. So I said, I don't know what I'm going to talk about, but I'm going to film at least one. I did 5. And Tony said, you should probably change your shirt every time. And I was so nervous I would lose my rhythm that you'll notice in the videos I'm wearing a different jacket because I just went to the hall tree. So I went to the hall tree and was like, I'm going to wear my winter jacket. I'm going to wear it.
I did notice the winter jacket.
It was so goofy. So I just kept grabbing jackets. And then finally at the end, I grabbed my Mrs. Frizzle outfit and pulled my hair up. But yeah, it was just, it flowed and it felt
That's
so
what they said.
good.
She looks like Mrs. Frizzle.
Yeah, that's my Halloween costume.
I didn't know who that was at the beginning. They had to tell me.
Land.
Never saw a Magic School Bus, so.
So it flowed and it felt easy and it felt good and it felt like, what if somebody needs to hear this? Because I sure do. And that's what it is. Like, I'm just talking to myself.
I had, our podcast is very local. Like we average between 3,000 and 20,000 views per episode.
Wow.
Just depends, on who the guest is and the subject matter. So that's a big range. But the cool thing about it is like 80% of it is in Shiawassee County. So that's a good sized local audience. That's better numbers than the local radio station gets. So we feel like we've become a good local voice. We're probably not ever going to be a national podcast because we're interviewing local people. We'd love to give people the opportunity to share their stories and tell about how they came to where they are and the journey. I love it. I nerd out on that stuff. But you never know who's listening. And I'm just talking half the time, and sometimes I'm coming up with stuff on the fly because, there's times where I hear something back and I'm like, oh, that was brilliant. And then there's times where I hear it back and I'm like, that was really stupid. But I had a kid reach out to me a couple weeks ago and was like, hey, this is more than a couple weeks ago. Was like, hey, I love your podcast. Never met this guy. Was super excited to see that you got Gary Vee on episode 100. I saw the thumbnail and I clicked on it and I was disappointed to see that he wasn't actually on, but I thought it was cool how you did it. He goes, but I know you say that Gary Vee inspires you. I just want you to know that you're inspiring a lot of people too, including me.
Aww.
And he owns a business and just a young guy, and some really cool things have happened with him since then. But we'll get those messages from time to time, and it's always amazing to me that you just don't know who you're saying it for or what it's for, but it does hit somebody and it will have an impact, especially if you're doing it with purpose. So I think yours, because it's really a lot more raw and real and you're sharing life experiences, I think it's really going to help a lot of people, and I think it's going to do really well. So I'm excited about it. The jury's out. You'll see. You'll get great comments. You'll get the haters, but I think it's going to be really, really good.
If you're going to be mean, you just stay home.
Just stay away.
Because it's okay that you don't like it.
Right.
Yeah, you don't have to watch it, but there is nothing in it that is like meant to hurt anybody's feelings. So don't be mean. And I just think it's not necessary. And your mom should have said something to you about it because it doesn't have to happen.
So November 7th, Tuesday at 2. stay tuned. Be
Yeah.
watching. It'll be on all the places you can find a podcast.
All the
We're
places.
helping you with that as well. The
I don't know
distribution.
what that means, but
it's going to
Tony
be on
does.
YouTube and Facebook and Instagram, but also all the places you can just listen, like
Yeah.
Spotify and Apple and Google and all those places.
And my
So-
goal is that they're short enough that if you got a short commute like I do, because I love these hour-and-a-half ones, but
Nobody else
Tony and
does.
I are close to 2 hours here, I think, probably. They're fun. But the truth is, like, I have a 1.5-minute commute, so the little bits are important for me. And I really want to download something on your heart that helps you to get through your day that day. And it feels like, oh, dang, I never thought of it like that. Because I know that people are good enough just as they are and exactly where they're at. And that's so important to me that is it. And like you said, I film these little, it's not about your hair, on my Instagram. I've been doing it for years, but I haven't made it a podcast because I don't know how to do that. And those are my most commented on things because it's always someone sitting at home that was like, I needed to hear that, or the most messages I get. And again, it's just such an honor that you can do that. We live in a world that we can do this.
Yeah.
Share our darn thoughts out
Wasn't
in
it
the
possible
world.
15 years ago? Yeah. So, well, good. I'm excited for you.
Yeah.
And we'll look forward to it. So, we have a segment that we introduced this season.
Okay.
This is the end of the season. We're getting really close to the end of season 5. And we do 50 questions. It's rapid fire. It's quick. It goes faster than you think. It's going to go much faster than the first part of our podcast did. And I'll try not to add commentary to your answers. Just let you answer. Because sometimes I struggle like, oh, I want to add to that.
And
but
sometimes if I can't give a quick answer, I'll say pass or
pass.
I'll try. Okay.
Perfect. All right. You ready?
Yep.
Super hard question to start. How did you start your day today?
I was reading the book, Becoming an Influential Woman.
If you could spend the day with anyone in the world, who would that be?
Probably, I really enjoy Brendan Bouchard.
And what would you do with that person?
I'd let him be my life coach.
All right. What is one thing you would love to master?
Motivational speaking.
Are you a caller or a texter?
Texting, absolutely.
Who was the last person you texted?
My husband.
Where were you born and raised?
I was born in New York City, and I was
know that.
raised half my life in Charleston, South Carolina, and then 8th grade and up. So half my childhood, 8th grade and up here in Owasso.
All right. So this next question you kind of already answered. It says, what inspired you to specialize in curly hair, and how did you become, so maybe the quick answer of how did you become the curl boss?
Quick short answer is my oldest daughter had curly red hair. I thought she was so darn cute. Things you can't do for yourself, you see in your kids. So I grew up like, ooh, you look just like little orphan Annie. And I sure hated that because she was an orphan. Yeah. And I saw this beauty in my own kid that I couldn't see in myself, and God revealed the power of that.
Awesome. What is the number one tip that you would give to a person that has curly hair?
Don't brush your god dang straight hair. If you rake it, you break it. If you milk it, you silk it. My girls know that.
Did you go to college?
I went to 2 classes at Baker because that was during the time of 90210. This is true. And I wanted to meet someone there, even though I was with my current husband. I feel bad about that, Adam. You know that. And I went, and Baker College was full of women that are my age now, trying to make a comeback. So I went home and told Mary I wasn't doing that anymore.
Were you team Brandon or team Dylan?
Luke.
Oh,
It was
okay.
Luke.
Well, look, that's
was
Dylan.
Dylan. Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
definitely the bad boy. You know, everybody wants a bad boy.
So what did you study those 2 classes?
I don't even know. I was there for the boys.
What made you decide to get into hair?
I was
you mentioned
kicked
that
out of high
earlier, yeah.
school, and they put me in there.
What have you done for the very first time recently?
I think I filmed a podcast.
Yes, you did. In 10 years, what will you regret doing way too much of?
Eating cinnamon sugar bread.
If you could resurrect one person from history and place them in today's world,
Are
who
you
would that
kidding? Jesus.
be? It's a good one.
Jesus.
What's your favorite thing about Owasso?
I love this. I love that between my husband and I don't ever question who I can call if I need help for my kids, for myself. Like, I really do feel like our community is cool like that.
Agreed. What is your perfect dessert?
Cinnamon sugar bread. Come on.
Okay, so you and I don't know if you remember this. You and I did a stand-up comedy open mic night at Guido's.
Yes.
Yours was funnier than mine, of course. But Is there a joke that you could remember from that night that you could tell us on the podcast right now?
So funny. I forgot that I did that, and I just reposted it on my Facebook, Voss the Curl Boss. So you should check it out. But I don't tell jokes; I tell long stories. So they
Yes.
were long-winded stories. But the punchline was that I had been told my whole life I had big bones, and that was during the time of CSI and Horatio. And when I started losing weight and I got to a size 8, which was the first time in my life, I was in the dressing room and it like literally hit me. I'm like, I've never seen Horatio Sanchez say, look at the size of the skeletal system on this one. She must have had big bones. And I was like, I got regular bones.
Yes, my bones are normal size.
I'm a regular size.
It's what I put around the bones, right?
Yes. Dang it. Cinnamon sugar bread.
Yes. What is by the way, you killed it. Like, you made me very intimidated to go up because you went before me. And I thought, because I know I'm not supposed to be adding to this, but it was a fun night. I went a few weeks before to see Maddie Hartson sing, and there was a kid that stood up and did comedy, and it was terrible. And I'm like, one of my bucket lists is do stand-up comedy.
Mine
just
too.
once.
That was be brave.
And so I'm like, I'm going to do it. And I had this really cool, mine are just stories too. I don't tell jokes. And then you got up. I'm like, oh, dude, I'm going to bomb. But it went okay. It went okay. I don't know if I'll ever do it again, but I had a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah.
Maybe we should
Let's do it.
open for the Lebowski one night, just the two of us. What is the most important quality that a successful person should have?
Honesty.
What is a daily habit that everyone should do?
Go for a walk.
What is your go-to karaoke song?
I do not sing. But if I did, it would be Ego by Lauren Daigle.
All-time favorite person to FaceTime?
My dad.
Favorite way to spend a Sunday?
On a walk with Adam.
Describe yourself as a kid.
Goofy. So goofy.
What did you love about school, and what did you hate about school?
I never really fit in at school. So I don't have a lot of Mrs. Partridge in 4th grade always told me I was awesome, and I'll never forget that. But I didn't really fit, so it was hard for me.
So what advice then would you give to your 16-year-old self?
You're so rad, Casey Hutchison. You are cool and fearfully and wonderfully made.
When is the first time you truly felt successful?
Right now. No, I think probably. Yeah. I don't know. Probably when I gave up worrying what everyone else thought.
What is a must-read book?
7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Favorite podcast?
I love Matt Chandler in the Village Church.
I don't think I've heard that one. If you were stranded on a desert island with only one album for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Probably Lauren Daigle. Oh, cheesy.
My son loves Lauren Daigle.
Yeah.
Okay, so curly hair obviously is very unique in its needs. So what are some essential products that every curly-haired person should own?
Well, I'm not going to go there, but if you want to shop the Curl Boss on Etsy, it's temporarily frozen because I did something wrong and no one will help me. But someday you can shop there again and get a satin bonnet. That's important, but products are really interesting. Satin bonnet.
All right. What is a must-binge TV series?
Ted Lasso.
Man, you are the 4th or 5th person on the show this season to say that, and I still haven't seen it. So
I feel anti-Christian sometimes,
Yeah.
and this is like with the Christian weird kooky stuff that gets set in your head. Filthy language. Filthy language. Get over
we're
it.
adults here. Yeah.
Yeah, but at first I'm like, should I have this on mute? It's so good.
Yeah.
And I want to be Ted when I grow up.
Ruben and Ashley were just on the show, and they said I literally, that's the 4th or 5th guest that's told. I actually have it on my list. It's in my notes. You may have seen that. That it's a show that I need to watch. I have a list of shows that people have recommended
so
to me.
good.
'Cause I never know what to watch. But
We don't watch much, but when we do that, that's
Ted Lasso. All right, we're gonna try it. So what's a movie then that you could watch over and over again?
I don't watch a lot of TV, but I have watched A Star Is Born so many times with Lady Gaga.
good one.
Yeah,
That's a
I
good one.
just like.
If Hollywood made a movie about Casey Voss, who would you want to see cast as you?
Oh my Landia pass! I have nothing.
No answer for that one.
Lady Gaga.
Lady
Call
Gaga.
me.
All right,
no,
that's a good
just
one.
kidding.
What's a hidden talent or skill that you have that might surprise people?
I can cross stitch,
Really?
but I can't follow a pattern. I just have to do it myself.
Your husband also does hair.
Yeah.
I went and saw him about a month ago. First time I left my barber of 25 years just because it wasn't getting there.
Yeah.
Adam came highly recommended from Dan here in the office
man.
and from my sons that are now going there. And they're like, you got to try something different, And he killed it.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Gave you the slim
never,
up.
I never in my life, I don't get compliments on my appearance. I've never been the good looking guy. I've always been the personality guy.
Yeah.
Like in
Same.
high school,
Same.
I knew if I was going to get a girl, it had to be win her over with the charm because I didn't walk in the room and turn any heads. It just wasn't me. So I'm not used to getting comments on my physical appearance.
Okay.
It's almost uncomfortable. But I will tell you, like, a dozen people after I got that haircut, and it just was. I mean, it was cool, but like I just told him what I wanted, and he did his magic, and like a dozen people were like, either did you do something different with your hair, I like it, or did you lose weight? The slim cut, I guess. So
Slim Jim.
we were talking about that before, that we should market this.
Yeah.
If you want to look like you lost 10 pounds, go see Adam. So from your perspective, why should people go see Adam?
Oh, god darn, because he's just so darn cute. Is step
We're
one.
talking to guys here, though. Guys don't care if he's cute.
So he's so cute. He's so sweet. And I really do think he has an eye. Like, so the reason he went to barber school is I probably forced it, but he loves hedge trimming. And hedge trimming is like
Sure.
tightening up the yard. You've
Sure.
seen some ungrown hedges and then you've seen trimmed up ones.
Yeah.
And some people don't know how to trim a hedge. And he would be
I
out
don't.
there just saw blasting that stuff. And I'm like, babe, this is hair cutting. So to your point, it is what he can see a lineup. Like that's why he does the boys and I do the girls, because I don't have the vision.
Should have called his shop The Hedge. That would have been a great,
Oh man,
great name.
that's actually a great idea.
Okay, so what is your favorite quote?
A goal without a plan is just a wish.
Love that one. Favorite place you've ever been?
We just got back from a cross-country trip with just our middle daughter, so I don't know if it was a combination of not having everyone together, because if you're a parent, let's just be honest, and you have more than one child, family vacations are fun and not fun.
It's
Can we
exhausting.
agree?
It's
You're
exhausting.
fine. We're eating at one place.
Yes.
Like
And everyone's sharing.
Yeah, you're done. But we took a road trip. We went to Colorado, Utah, and Arizona. We slept in a tent, and it was literally absolutely incredible to see how the terrain changes like that. Like, what in the world did God create? So that was it.
Awesome. One last meal. What are you eating?
Something with sugar in it.
Cinnamon sugar bread.
Cinnamon sugar bread. God dang
I
it.
know what to get you for your birthday
Yeah.
now. Who makes good cinnamon sugar bread around here?
My grandma.
Just your grandma. What is success to Casey Voss?
Being satisfied.
What is one random fact about you other than you cross stitch?
I can only wear these shoes because my feet are in such bad shape that literally you'll find me either in cowboy boots or a pair of Hokas. It's kind of
All right.
sad.
All right. What is one totally irrational fear that you have? Breaking up.
Yeah, I don't know.
People breaking up with
I'm
you.
like, God, I got
I think
quite
it's
a
people
few.
breaking up
yeah,
with you.
sorry. Yeah, I would say that I've worked in years of therapy of being left behind.
People
the
break-
rapture.
Yeah. What is your love language?
I can't remember, but I'm going to guess acts of service.
Okay.
Physical touch, maybe.
What is the most adventurous thing you've ever done?
I think, God dang it, sleeping in a tent
Yeah.
in Arizona in the middle of the summer was pretty
There's
darn
scorpions there.
adventurous.
Yeah, they have scorpions.
In 110 degrees.
If you could broadcast a message to the entire world right now, and just so you know, you're not broadcasting to the entire world right now. Shiawassee County's got you,
Yeah.
but beyond that, I don't know. But if you could, what would you say?
I would say that you are absolutely spectacular. Even all the mistakes you've made, all the things you're trying to hide, all the things that you feel like you've messed up on, all of it. You are absolutely spectacular, uniquely made, special just as you are, and have so much work that is yet to be done, and do not be afraid of it.
What is the number one, most common misconception about curly hair?
That it's must be really hard to do.
What is one thing people with curly hair should never do under any circumstance?
Brush your god dang dry hair. What are y'all doing? Stop doing that.
What is something important that you've learned in life that would help other people succeed?
What is something important that I've learned? I'm going to go back to the same thing because I can't say it any differently. But Psalms 139, that he knew me before he formed me, that he knit me together in my mother's womb, that he knows exactly who I am, and that there is no place I can go, neither high nor low, that can hide from his power and his presence, and that they are for me and not against me. And so in that, I really believe that for myself and for others. And once I caught that, the world started making more sense, didn't it? There ain't anybody that's not worth the love of God, and
That's right.
no one out of his reach. And if he can get me,
But you got to believe that. People can tell you that, but you got to actually believe it. And it sounds like you do. So, well, I don't know if you realize it, but we just made it to question number 50.
Woo!
That went quick, right? With everything going on in your life now, what makes Casey Voss most happy these days?
that I literally live, honestly, the most satisfied life of any human that I have met to this day. And my life is crazy. Like, we have house guests that live with us. We have adult kids and young kids, and life is not perfect. It's actually far from perfect, but that I feel like it is an honor to wake up today, and I feel like it's an honor when I go to sleep, and it is awesome.
Awesome. Well, you did it.
We
Studio
did it.
audience, round of applause. Just all three of us, right?
2.5 hours later. Hope you're still here.
Actually, I think we're about hour and 20 minutes, so it's
Oh,
not too bad.
yeah.
We've done worse. I think
Okay.
our last one was about hour 25, so
Okay.
we're on par. So we'll just, we'll round it all off here. We'll bring it home. We'll land the plane. I can't say again enough thank you for being on the show again.
Thanks for having me.
Always fun to talk. Whenever we talk, we got to set a significant amount of time apart because we're always solving the world's problems. But I appreciate you sharing with us and sharing your vulnerabilities, and I'm super excited about your podcast. I really, really am. So before we go, though, I'm going to let you look into that camera, and this is your opportunity to plug whatever you want to plug. Plug it all.
Oh, my land. Okay. Well, I'm going to plug, I don't know, the podcast, which I don't even know where it's at yet or where it's going, but November 7th, Tuesdays at 2. I'm committed to at least 6 episodes. So if you like it, I'd love to hear from you. And if there's something that you're struggling with, reach out to me because I'd love to talk about it. Let's talk about that because that's what it's about, right? That's what we're here for. Also, I do have a long wait list for the curly hair thing, so I struggle to say you should get on the wait list because it's irritating. But you could follow me on social and get some tips and tricks. And if you're looking for curly hair goods, the Curl Boss on Etsy, I sell lots of awesome, fun things. So
When it comes back up,
yeah, right now it doesn't work because I don't know how to do it. And so
maybe we can take a look at that for you.
yeah, it's
I don't know a ton about Etsy, but we could see if it's something simple.
whatever. And so I would say that all of those things combined, what I want you to do is have a good day.
Good day. Well, again, thanks a lot.
Yeah.
We appreciate it. Thank you all for coming on this journey with us. It was enjoyable for you as it was for us, I hope. And we appreciate you watching.
Yeah, for
And,
sure.
and remember, as my mother always said, you can't and never could until you tried. So go out there and try something great, my friends, and don't take the easy way out. We'll see you next time.